Hey guys, welcome to the second part of my sponge warp plugging tutorial. As I said in the last video, this might become a two-part video or series, whatever you want to call it, but this is the second part, and today, or in this video, we're going to focus on the sine part of the sine warp plugin, I guess you want to call it. But as you saw in the first video, I showed you how we can warp to different locations by using commands, but in this one we are going to use it by using a listener, or most specifically a sine listener that listens to when a player right clicks it, and it will hopefully take them to the specified warp. So to get started, I created a new class called sine listener. You can name whatever you want. Put these two listener methods, and defined config variable as the config we created in the first class. I'll go over each event individually. This first event is when a player presses done. Whatever the hell this is. Um, so the event is specifically when a player types whatever they need, and it doesn't happen. It happens right now. So as soon as they press done, that's when that event fired. This one is, I guess I should have stayed in game. This one is when a player right clicks on something. So let's actually go back to this and that too. So when a player, it's block, and this one is like when they right click this one, it would fire, or like in our case, when they right click the sign, that's when it would fire, hopefully. And that's essentially what we're going for, is like you create signs with a specified title that you want, and it will bring them to the warp. So to get started, as you saw, I've created this class with the listener and the config variable, and in here we need to register the listener. With S, this, and new sine listener. And that just makes sure that the game knows to listen to those events specifically. And if you're wondering why that, even though the other class needs to be registered as listener because it's listening, and the main class doesn't, it's because the main class is already registered listener, and just be a little redundant to. I think it actually throws an error too if you register an already registered listener, and because the main class is a listener, so you don't need to register that. So some people had questions about that. But that's all you need to do in the main class now. Like, we're done with that, and this is the only thing we have to do left to finish the plugin. So in the sign place event or sign change, we are going to check if the text is equal to bracket warp bracket, and then we're going to see if the second line, which is going to be the warp name, is a valid warp. So to get that sign data, we have to declare a variable from called sign data, and get that from event get text, which is fairly simple. Now we need to see if there's actually sign data present. And there's multiple ways to do this, but we're just going to do that way. Get the keys and see if they're present. You can get it sign data got like lines, and get a list of the text and lines and stuff like that. You can do multiple ways, but I like using keys because there's a lot of other keys that you can use and find a bunch of other data. But after we have declared that there is data, let's see whether, let's declare two variables. Data dot get value like we did above. Sign lines get 0 because it starts at 0, and you want to make sure we have that to plain on the end, so it gets it plain string. If you don't do it, your plugin won't work because you'll be comparing the config. You'll be checking the config for a value like this. So like, or not warp, whatever line 0 was, no, line 1, because line 1 is going to be the name of the warp, so that's what it will turn, whatever line 1 is. Also text bracket line 1, whatever line 1 is, then the closing bracket. So we don't want to do that unless you're going to check it, unless you're going to check it like that and put text in there. But the to plain method just gets rid of that. And we'll create the second line. Get value keys dot sidelines dot get. So now we do if check if line 0 is equals. I do ignore case. Oops. And this is right here is where you check whether the sign contains your suggested text. Mine is warp right here. And if it does, then we can then set the colors, as you saw on the first video, how it changed the colors, and then we can tell it to actually warp to it. But before we can do that, we need to tell whether it's a actual warp, like a valid warp in the config. Like is virtual, and make sure you put that exclamation point there. And now that we've determined that it 1 includes data, 2 first line is warp, and 3 that the second line is a valid warp in the config, we can finally set the data. I want value. We have keys dot sign get dot set. The first line, and then we'll do text dot of, and open it again. This is getting pretty ugly, but just dark gray this time. Open it. Oops. Text colors. No. Colors dot blue. And then we'll do warp. Text colors dot dark gray again to close the bracket, and then we'll do the closing bracket. And where this is before that, send a player, find a player here. We could use the @root annotation up here, up in here, but I'm too lazy. So if you would like to do that, you can do that. Player event.get cause root message text out of text colors dot. We want green because they did something successfully. Created warp sign successfully, and return so it doesn't go into this. And if it doesn't, we want to send the player. Actually, let's define the player up here. Right here. Send message text dot of text colors dot red. No warp with that name exists. So now it will create a warp sign. But what won't happen is when you right click it, it won't do anything. So let's move on to this event, which you see is interact block event dot secondary. Secondary just means it's right click. There's 4 different sub events of interact block event. There's mainly 2. Like there's interact block event dot primary, interact block event dot secondary, and technically in the new versions of Minecraft, there's interact block event dot secondary dot main hand and dot offhand for like the new hands and stuff, but we're only focusing on if they right click it like at all. So now we need to send. We need to check if there's an actual block at the event, so it doesn't listen to events. Doesn't need to. Check if the tile entity is there. Check if the sign data is there. As did earlier, check if warp is the first line, and check if the node is actually a valid if the line is an actual warp. So event.get target block.get location, and we'll define a location world. We'll call this block location. We're not just going to call it location because we need a location after this. And then if block location get tile entity is present, and then we'll create the optional sign data. Name that sign data. And we're gonna use a lambda, however the hell you say that. That Greek word, little L in Greek, but to get the sign data from the side. So we're gonna do block location dot get the tile entity, and then we're gonna do flat map. Define T. Create the lambda, and then T.get or create, and then gonna get the actual sign data or create it. Since we know that sign data is yeah, okay. So if the way the get or create method works is to avoid throwing errors. It checks whether there's data present or there's data. If there's no data, then it creates it to avoid throwing errors, or just creates null data. And the data we want to create is the sign data. And then I need to throw the semicolon at the end. So now we have an optional on top, an optional containing whether an optional of sign data defined as the block, the tile entities, which is a sign. Hopefully, that's why I have an optional to see if it is present. And if it is present, we know it's a sign, and that's a void to. We don't need to double check whether it's a sign, because if it has sign data, it has to be a sign unless someone somehow gave I don't know, a random block sign data. But I always need to check if that sign data is present. String line 0 equals sign data dot get value keys dot sign lines dot get 0 dot to plain, and if line 0 you could add, there's gonna be another if condition. You could add these all into like the first if condition, and then like define all these variables, which is sign data and block location separately. But I just like it going in descending order, and you can see everything spelled out. Equals ignore case like we did earlier. Warp. Then we can define the second line equals sign data get value. Nope. keys dot assign lines dot get one dot toPlane. And then we need to check whether in the config dot get node whether line 1 dot 2 uppercase this. And then we can find the actual location of the warp. It's gonna be loc, and then new location. That's not needed because we're in language level 8. And we need to get the world. Sponge.get server. No, want server to get world by a string, and we're gonna get that string from config.get node line 1 dot 2 uppercase, and then we get the world from it. Get string dot get. No, I just want get. I need the get right here, and then we'll get the and we're gonna get the X, Y, and Z. Uppercase X, get double, and then we'll copy and paste this 3 times. Y, Z, and then define that, and if it's mad, I don't put world there. Really sad. In language level 8, I don't need to put the type in both the diamonds, but whatever. And then we'll send them to set location safely, and setting the method set location versus set location safely. At least I think that's how it works. It makes sure they're not teleported into a place where they could suffocate. So put it there. I mean, you can just do set location if you want that ability. Text.of text colors green, not gray. Warped to line 1. Don't need that there. See now it. Okay. So now we've checked that there's actually stuff there and gone through everything we need to get what we need. We can run this. Okay, make sure I stopped it from earlier. Run that. Hopefully we don't get any errors. We should get the title thing. How it doesn't like how I named my project, but I'm naming it tutorial. And then we should be set to ready to go if I didn't make any mistakes, which knowing me, I probably did. That start and a little not self plug right here, but in December of this year, I'm helping contribute to the Block Jam charity, which is an event that's going on in December. Kind of like I don't know, what's like the Child's Play ones they do, where like you donate, you get access to the server, you can play games. But if you want to go to Block Jam, the website, I'll put the website in the description. You can check that out. It's in December or January, depends how fast we get the plugins done. But let's get back to the tutorial. Now that we've started the server, our signs should be able to work. So let's start cyan, and we'll do warp. Now we'll just do cyan. Alright, see it changed. You can't even tell the dark gray, but yep, brought us to cyan. But if we do warp, not cyan, there's no warp with that name, so it doesn't. One, it doesn't change the color, and let's actually do that again. Not cyan. 1 doesn't change the color, and 2, when we right click, it doesn't do anything. We can do warp magenta, and it'll bring us over there. And if we want to go back and forth, warp cyan. Warp, bring us over to orange. Let's go over to orange. And as you see, it's working perfectly fine. Delete them and nothing works. So I hope you guys can benefit from this. It really is more than just the idea of a warp plugin, but you can apply all the principles that you've learned with this to many other things. Like, you don't have to make it just a cyan warp plugin. You can change what happens right here to make it run commands. And let's say you want it to be a command sign. Check if this is command, and set it a command, and set the command in a list, or set the command in the map with the ID of the sign, and when they right click the sign, have it run a command. If you guys like to see that, put some comments about that. I have plenty of time now. I appreciate you guys coming to watch this video. We hope you help you guys out a lot. I had fun creating this. It took me a while to actually get the code down, because as you see, I have all the code written here, but that's just behind the scenes. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys coming to watch this video a lot, and hopefully I can get another video out in the next 2 days. So I'll see you guys in the next video.